Good afternoon, Sydney, and people from elsewhere. Welcome. My name's Trevor Doornbos. I'll be taking you through this Mission Control webinar today. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem coming up to 8 years, and it's my second year at Aprika Business Solutions as I like to say, Mission Control Evangelist. What we'll be walking through today is pretty much an overview of Mission Control, going through the solution set. If you have a look on G2, on App Exchange, on our website, you can have a whole look at a whole lot of reviews, very good competitive comparisons against other solutions. And one thing we're very proud of is an extremely high Net Promoter Score. So for anyone who understands Net Promoter Score, that's quite a great benchmark. We really do focus on our customers. A little bit about Aprika and Mission Control. So we started as a Salesforce systems integrator back in 2010. Our co-founders started building out some custom objects which launched as Mission Control on App Exchange back in 2012. So we're coming up to 10 years on App Exchange this year. We're also coming up to 10,000 active users globally. We're headquartered here in Australia. I'm on the east coast of Australia as our CEO and marketing director and soon to start services director. And a lot of the rest of our staff are actually based in the US. So we've got support across pretty much all of North America, Europe, and APAC. A lot of great logos up there, and we do cover not just a lot of countries around the globe, as certainly we've stopped counting how many countries people are in, but also across a number of industries. So whether you're in architecture, construction, pure services, media, marketing, there could be a fit for Mission Control in your business. I'd say go and have a look at the reviews. Certainly on our testimonial site, you can see at the bottom of the screen, there's our testimonials. We're starting to post up more about what our customers are saying, again, on G2 and App Exchange. Chris Litton, one of my favorite clients, because their office is about 15 minutes from where I grew up in New Zealand. While I've been based in Sydney 30 years, I did grow up over the ditch, as it were. And they've been using Mission Control for quite a while now. And when they started their first year, they found pretty much straight away, and this was unsolicited, to a user group on how it's saving their project managers 4 business days every month. And that was mind-blowing. And last year, they did some formal analysis and said, look, without any extra spending or extra staff, they're increasing productivity, which they attribute to Mission Control. A lot of great reviews, as I was saying up there. What you're probably more keen on is why Mission Control? Well, first of all, it's built on Salesforce for Salesforce. So if you're used to using Salesforce, it's going to look very familiar. It's not an integration, it's actually built in the org. So when you download Mission Control, it's sitting with all your other objects. So you're able to use a lot of customization, change the page layouts, hide, show fields, add your own custom objects, use all that business logic that comes with Salesforce. I just sat through a user group session with the Sydney user group and some of the great things coming with new features in Salesforce. And that's all available to you, obviously, as a Salesforce user. So, of course, being able to build out your own reports and dashboards and getting access. And I'd always like to emphasize, it is literally download from App Exchange and it's out-of-the-box capability. And we'll go through that in a bit more depth. From a licensing perspective, we're what's called an ISV-Force app, which means you will need a Salesforce license to access the Mission Control objects and fields. And we support everything from Lightning Platform, Starter, Experience Sites, and up, even identity licenses if you have access to them in your org. What is in Mission Control? Well, we call it a professional services automation solution. So what's the difference between a project management solution and a PSA, or professional services automation solution? And that's probably the depth and breadth of what Mission Control can actually give you. So everything you see today, everything we talk about in Mission Control is out-of-the-box capability. You don't need different tiers. You control what your users get to see, and you determine what you want to switch off and what may not be appropriate for your business, because we're building in functionality for different industries, and the flexibility of Mission Control means that maybe there's some things in there that you don't need to switch on. So if you don't like something on the screen, switch it off and activate it. You don't need to use it. From a resource management perspective, a lot of the value of having a PSA solution is being able to cost out what are my people costing me and what am I charging my customer, regardless of how I'm doing that, whether it's time and materials, fixed fee, finding the right resource by capability with a skills matrix, by availability, capacity, how many hours a week do they work, what days do they work, and being able to quickly find that person and assign them to that. And then obviously tracking utilization and capacity, and also full holiday management as well. So being able to accrue time and seeing when people are taking time off. Creating a project, super simple. Obviously, you want to have templates. You can have any number of templates you can create. You can create a project from scratch pretty quickly. You can create a project out of the box, and I'll show you this example today, straight from an opportunity in Salesforce. We also have a project request object. So maybe your support people want to log times against cases, and you want to kick off a support project to align to that. You can do that as well. And when you're creating your projects, being able to, much as I used to do with Microsoft Project, find one that worked before and beg, borrow, steal from other projects. So being able to clone projects, copy milestones between projects, and build them up as you need to. As far as how you want to manage your projects, I'm going to show you some very straightforward waterfall style projects. Obviously, there's people out there who do sprint-based approaches. Agile supports that as well. We have full program management in there, which is probably another webinar altogether. And then all the things that go under project management that you may want to use or not, as the case may be. As far as time tracking, so being able to find out who's available, you really need to be able to allocate that time and see who's working to what, but also tracking against what's happening. So how do you get your actuals against your forecast? Track what's actually being delivered. And obviously, using all the capability, not just the mission control, but in Salesforce. Full project financial management. So being able to do the billing out of your project and then extract that and put that into your financial system, sending invoices straight out of mission control and getting visibility of what's happening there. We're going to use GST as a standard example in my demo, but you might be managing several jurisdictions where they have different tax rules. Obviously, GST in New Zealand is different to Australia, different to in Singapore or other places. Program management, that's actually how we develop the life cycle for mission control. We have 3 releases a year, and we do the full requirements, user stories, program management, project building, sprint release cycles, all in mission control. So we actually do eat our own cooking. From a collaboration perspective, using those standard platform capabilities. So obviously, chatter available all the way through through the platform, through the project levels, whether it's at the project milestone or action level. A couple of other features in there, being able to share status reports out of the box to your customers. So being able to do that simply without having to pay anymore to get your users online to see that information. And I'll take you through some of those productivity tools that you'd expect to see. So what I'm going to go through today is probably, I'm trying to break it into sections to make it more palatable. We'll start off in a simple Salesforce dashboard, what we call Gantt chart anywhere, an example, and utilization. And then what I'll do, I'll also create a project from an opportunity, and then we'll go through that process of resourcing someone, then working on the work and how it flows into the billing. So if you like, it's project creation to invoice. And then we'll do a bit of a deep dive into a project through some of the features. I've got the Q&A, the chat window open. So if there's any questions during the session, please feel free to sing out. If the sound goes terrible, I need to move the mic closer or further away, please, don't hesitate. I'd love this to be an interactive session. So if we swap across to my demo org, I've got a number of tabs open here. Now, if you come onto this webinar going, fantastic, Trevor's going to talk all about the new release. Sorry to disappoint you, but the new release webinar for 1.60 that came out in February, that's about an hour long. So it's probably the largest release. It is the largest release we've brought out in the past 10 years. It's a double release. We've brought out resource forecasting beta, and that'll extend out to full product across mission control by the end of the year in the next 2 releases. And there's a whole lot of other features in there. So Aprika.com, mission control, and go to the release notes. There's a lot of great information on our website. So let's go into mission control. So in mission control, I've got a number of tabs I'm going to walk through. as I go through the session. And the first place you might start when you first start using Mission Control is the console. And then the console, depending on your access. So using permission sets, we ship with Mission Control, you can then determine who gets to see what can they actually access. So even on the console, do they see all the pads? These wizards are just to simplify things you can do in other places in the solution for people who might just want a nice place to find them and access them quickly. So creating a project, obviously copying a project. If you want to clone a template, I've got a number set up in my demo org. Creating a new role, so your end users, assigning them to licenses, or maybe assigning them to a Salesforce contact, which just won't have notifications, grouping people into teams, creating a skills library, and having things such as public holidays, and building out holidays for your individuals, such as personal time off, annual leave, and the like. In the progress pad, when you might want to deep dive, we'll be going through the whiteboard, touching on the timesheet, and the issue log and the risk log, but there's a lot more in there. Certainly in the 30-40 minutes we've got, we're not going to cover the whole solution, so we'll be speaking fast. This is recorded. You will get a copy of the session. Good to see a few people have joined. We've got probably the largest we've had in a few sessions, which is great. And good to see there's customers online, competitors online, hi there, and some prospects that I've been speaking to already, so welcome. If you do want to download Mission Control and have a play around in a sandbox, you don't have the time to build out your own data. So once you've downloaded it from App Exchange, for those of you who are the admins, scroll down on the control pad and you find this great little feature on the right, create sample data. That'll create a couple of accounts, a couple of projects, people, bit of data, so you've actually got something to play with, and then you can blow that away when you're ready to work with your own. So let's have a look at dashboards. I've got a few I've set up, and dashboards are Salesforce dashboards using Salesforce reports. And what I've done here is I've just created a number of reports, given them various types of charts of all the information I want to see in one place. So I want to see how my project's performing. I want to see if there's any variance on where they should be. A question we often get, can you track baselines? Absolutely. Out of the box, number of ways you can visualize that, report on that. Tracking utilization, capacity, how much budget's remaining on projects, how many hours we've got left to allocate. Whatever way you want to slice and dice the information, it's there. And being Salesforce, for those not familiar with Salesforce, okay, hold on to your wigs because it gets a bit hairy from here. So I'm going to have a look at projects over budget. I can drill straight through from my dashboard into a Salesforce report. For those of you used to Salesforce, you go, yeah, this is standard. And I've got my project. It's my favorite project for this demo walk because it's got a lot of data in it. And I've come into Labs Roadshow. It was over budget. Straight away on my first milestone, I can see I've used a lot more hours than I had allocated. So my actuals are a lot higher than forecast. Under my insights, this is where I can track a lot about the project. So people who care about the dollars, the performance, how things are running, this would probably be a great screen for you. We track the cost performance, so CPI is cost performance index. If that's one, it's exactly as we forecast. We know we've used more hours than we scheduled, so we've actually fallen below one. And similarly here, it looks like we're falling behind on our schedule performance index, the SPI, so we're behind on schedule. I can track here my billable dollars, the hours, the P&L, my margins, and also what's happening with the invoices and the billing. If I want to then track across, every good project management solution should have a Gantt chart, and the one in Mission Control is second to none. It's certainly got a lot of great detail. Now, it said we were tracking behind, but what I can see here is that's just because we're not logging time daily on this action. If I scroll across to the left, I can see Carrie is the owner of the action, and she's got myself and Kelly and Colin as contributors to that. So you can have multiple people. You can see the dependencies. I've included the predecessors in the columns that I'm actually showing here. Nice little cogwheel there. If I wanted to change something, I could. So maybe real time, I want to see, well, what's the difference? What's the baseline? So I can see my baseline. So if I start pushing things out, what's going to happen to that? So visually, I can track my baseline, how that's actually changing. What about a standalone Gantt chart? And that is a great feature. A lot of customers I talk to, they love this feature because, for example, I'm filtering here by key projects from one customer. How are all these projects going for our customer? I can see there's my Labs Roadshow again. I didn't make any changes to that project, but you can see it's exactly the same view, but I can do it across multiple projects to see how they're all performing. So certainly at a high level, I can sort of track, okay, I've got one that should have started today, and yeah, maybe that needs to be pushed out. So I'm going to reschedule that one to actually next week. That's right, it's a demo org, so I'm not going to impact much, which is great. We'll come back more to the Gantt chart. Any questions, please, raise a hand. Actually, better just put a question into the Q&A. Role utilization. So I've got an example here. I've set up across my consulting team, and based on the availability. So obviously I can report on this in the analytics. What I'm looking at here over a month's period is Andrea. Andrea works a nice standard 40-hour week. If she worked less than that, we can track that. We've set a billable target of her time as 80%, so it tracks based on availability. So if she'd taken annual leave, there was a holiday, it goes not on her 40 hours, but whatever the availability is. Okay, we have a question. Okay, question is, can we migrate data from Microsoft Project into Mission Control? You could use Data Loader to bring that in, so that certainly we can help with templates on doing that. As far as getting it into Mission Control, you'd obviously need to make sure that all the fields match to what's in the Mission Control project structure. You can export from projects as well. So thank you for that question. Utilization, so I can track across the board. I can see how Andrea's going from an hour's utilization on what she should work, and also her billable performance. So for the month, she's a little bit down, and maybe that's one of her KPIs. So what about creating a project? So let's create a project directly from a Salesforce opportunity. So when you download Mission Control into your, let's say, Sandbox org, and you're trying it out for the first time, part of the quick start guide, which is on App Exchange as well, is set up this section in your opportunity. I've called it project generation, and add these 4 fields. Congratulations, you've now got automation available to create a project straight from a template at your opportunity. I've created an implementation template, fixed price milestone. So the billing is completion of the milestone, we can generate an invoice. Could be time and materials, retainer, what have you. I've got a start date, and I could manually go and tick this box and it'll create the project for me. The one piece of automation I've added to my org is just the process builder that says when I win the project, simply tick that box for me and it will create the project. You can create a project at any stage. You might build a project out to start scoping the opportunity, so you could actually use that as, let me hit refresh. I'd quite often use that as a way of scoping out a project. So we build out the project early on the opportunity, figuring out how many hours need to go against what types of role. And then it gives you a dollar figure you can actually put in your proposal using a document generation tool. So building that automation using great apps on App Exchange. So here's my project. We jump straight into the project. Let's have a look. My default when I log in and come into a project is I'm going to come into the project overview. And my demo walk is going to be a little bit slow today. Gives me a chance to take a sip of water. And what I've defaulted, when I come in, I want to see my project overview. So we saw the insights before, we can touch on that later. I've got a whole lot of tabs switched on here, and I'll come to that in the next 10 or 15 minutes in my deep dive project. For me, the first thing, I've got a number of milestones. So milestones, actions, and checklists, that's the structure. So I think phases, tasks, subtasks. Under my requirements milestone, I've got a meeting I need to start. It should have started already today. Number of fields I've got available here. I've got a placeholder role for my consultant. It helps me find the right person. I know I've got 8 hours available. Haven't started, so it's certainly not complete. And over here, I can go to the checklist, manage the checklist. Maybe if I'm the person creating the project, working on the project, managing the project, I could do it all from this one screen. But maybe I'm a project manager, and what I'd like to do is assign that. So rather than log time or this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to find someone to take on this meeting. So I've got my consultant placeholder role. I could just type in here and find the right person, or as I'm here on the resource assignment wizard, I want to find someone from a team. Perhaps they're in the consultant team and they need to be in a location. You can use any of the skill sets you've built out in your skills library. So I'm looking for a consultant who's good with configuration, might even need a proficiency level, like beginner or advanced. And I'm just going to look for the next 2 weeks on a daily view, say, show me who's available. And straight away, I've got a subset of my consulting team. I can see Andrea's at the top of the list. Zara's external, so we'll use her last because she'll cost us more money if we use her, obviously. And I'm going to go with Andrea because she's got more availability, and I can see she has got a holiday on Friday, but that's okay. We want her for today. So I'm going to drag her up here. And then I like seeing how Andrea works. So I'm just going to spend an hour with her on that, and just the ride shotgun, if you like, on the project to see how she does her requirements gathering. So that's fantastic. So what could happen when you assign an action to someone is you could have an automatic email go out to them, give them a notification if you've added notes or anything to that action that'll be included here. Obviously, there's any contributors or checklist items. And you can also send a daily digest. So before people even start, they could actually see, what have you got on for this week? What have you got on for today? What's been added? You know, what's waiting on other people? You know, what's late? You know, do you have any approvals? So from this side of things, what I'm going to do, let's take off my project manager hat and let's put on as if I'm Andrea. So I've jumped into the whiteboard, nice little Kanban screen. And in here, I've got it filtered at the top right here just to show Andrea's action, so I don't have to log in and log out. Just makes demo life a lot easier. Straight down here, I can see my demo project there for the requirements meeting. My Kanban cards, pretty much it's project milestone action, the action number. Obviously, if you have a number of actions, the same name. And the fields I'm using at the moment are start date, end date, hours allocated, and % complete. If I want to have a different view of those actions items, you can change those on the fields here. So are there any of our standard fields available or any custom fields, and choose what icons you need. So being a demo, I've got everything going. So let me just minimize this card, have a look at my demo project. Great, let's get that started. A couple of things that happened. That's updated the project to let the project manager know not only is the action in progress, but the milestones being marked as in progress. So any reports they're looking at, they'll see the change there. I can see I've got 8 hours here, and I've got a number of checklist items. So I've got 3 checklist items, and we need to get going because it's actually today. If I open up the checklist manager, I can see, yep, this is what I need to get through. If there's any notes or URL links out to some, say to some Google Docs or anything, I can check on those, establish requirements, agree with the client what's going in the build, and document them. Nice and simple. Job done. There's a number of places you could do this. I could do it in the action pad, other places, even straight in the standalone timesheet. So there's always more than one way to do things. You may have noticed at the bottom, there's a persistent menu on, you could actually log time down here. If I need to change the resource, I can change, if I've got access to this, if I want to change who's working on an action, I can do that here as well. What I'm going to do in this case, also, I mentioned chatter before, so maybe if I need to chatter someone on the project, either specifically at the action level, what have you, I can just put a chatter. Maybe I didn't show up for the meeting, and Andrea just wants to mention me. Obviously, she could do that there, and what have you. If there were any issues that came up that she wanted to log, so certainly you go to the issue manager and create a new issue, share that with the team, report on that. We'll come to that later. But typically now what she wants to do, she's going to log time. Instead of doing it for the standalone timesheet, she's going to do it from the pop-up. It's about 7 different places you can actually log time and mission control, and you choose where you do that. So let's say she used all of the 8 hours and she completed that. A couple of things that's going to happen here is when I log the time, not only will it log it because it's marked as complete, it's going to go out of the in progress column over to the complete column. Bit of demo magic there. The column headings, in case you're wondering, that's based on pick list fields on your action record, whether they're our standard pick list fields or ones that you create. So maybe you want to prioritize things to have different headings. You can get different views. If you're in the project, you can look by milestone views. You can work through the milestones in this view as well. Question: Have you seen an example situation where emails are tracked across projects as well, i.e. how we log emails related to an app? Yeah, sure. From here, I don't have it set up, but if I put on my project manager hat, which is probably a good timing, I was going to hit refresh on my screen, just so all those updates that, just bear with me while that, so have you seen an example situation where emails are tracked across projects as well, e.g. how we log emails related to an opportunity? Yeah, so what I've got set up on my demo project, I've added a couple of tabs to centralize some of the things from the related list. Obviously, those familiar with the related list in Salesforce, you can have any of the items. I've taken purchase orders and just put them up top here if I want to create change requests, but also under the activity. So under the activity, I can track things here. Certainly from the overview and the trackpad, I can have a look at the feed, which give that a few seconds to regenerate. So I can show what's happening on the feed, but also any communications that show on against the timeline, then you can ping them here as well. So obviously, I hope that answers the question. But certainly if you need to track it, you can certainly add the activity tab like I have here. So back to my demo. So Andrea's marked off a piece of work, nice and simple. She marked that action complete. I've got a setting in here that actually, when the action's complete, auto-complete the milestone. So great. My milestone has a budget of $2,000. That's what we're going to charge the client. It's fixed price milestone billing. So when that milestone completes, a billing event's running in the background. Now, as I've got access to the billing tab, I can come in and see what's happened with that. I can see I've got a draft invoices being created. If I click into this, every few minutes that'll update, and I can see, yep, it's created an invoice for me using our standard template. And that URL link I'm clicking on, I can send it straight to the client. And maybe add some Salesforce automation here to email that out to the client straight from the project, or I could do that manually. Sorry, my book's a bit slow today. Let's let that refresh, come back to it. While I'm in the billing event, so this is where you could actually push that information. So extract that information and push that into your finance system. And obviously put the right ledger code, so it goes to the right ledger code in your finance system, and then import back any payments. So all that information is available at the project level. So if we just see if that's refreshed, okay. Resend request on that, that might come up. Okay, I'll show you that on another screen. Why is that important? So let's say I go back into my billing tab and I want to create that. Let's edit that, and we'll mark that as, take that from draft to issued, which is part of a process. Again, you could automate, and we'll just say issued. And this might be your finance people doing this, your back office admins, awesome. But then from a project manager perspective, you can see what's happened. We know that we've invoiced this. When that's paid, you can then move on to the next piece of work. Maybe you've got an agreement with the client that you'll expect payment for each milestone completion before you move to the next one. So going into the Gantt chart, calling your client, saying, great, thanks, Ms. Client. We got the payment. We're ready to start on Monday with the implementation. Client says they've just had a hiccup. Can we push it back a couple of days? Not a problem. We'll just move that out here. We'll spread that 3 days. So it's not on the weekend. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we can just check how that's affecting our baseline, so we can see the change there, and I can hit save on that, so commit that. Fantastic. Any questions on that? And I'll come back to a few of those things that we probably missed there in my next section. So we had a look at the whiteboard. Let's talk about a standalone. I know what I haven't shown. That's probably key important. When you're actually looking at resources, maybe you don't want to look at action by action, define your resources. You want to see what's the availability of my people. So that's where the scheduler comes in really handy. So if I bring up the scheduler window, this is where you can see your resource availability, capacity, what they're working on, reassign actions, and drag that between people. So Just wait for my speedy demo roll to refresh the screen. Sorry, cache was cleared earlier. So what I'm looking at is from today's date, and let's just have a look at, minimize that. So I'm looking at my consulting team. I just got to filter up here, say, just show me my consulting team. I can see the projects they're working on. I can see Andrea's got time off for here for a couple of days. Maybe this piece of work needs to be reallocated for next week. We haven't allowed for her being away. If I go down right down to the action level, I can see how much time each person's got. So I'm just going to minimize that again. And I can see, Andrea's got a little bit of work. It looks like Carrie has got a heap of work. Now, my favorite view is more the heat map. So what is their real capacity? So based on their availability, I can see it's not actually looking that bad for Carrie. Maybe next Fridays, she's working a long day, so we might need to share some of that work. For Andrea, again, she's a little bit over, but it's changed. But as far as seeing what's the capacity of my team, obviously a demo org doesn't have all the data there, but I can go through and start seeing, based on the projects we've got running or even forecast, how's our capacity looking for the next days, weeks, or months. So straight away, I know I can start a ton of projects in May because we've got a lot of capacity there. If we go back to this view here, the actions view, the individual actions, I can see Andrea's scheduled allocation and her utilization based on what I'm seeing on the screen. So if I bring that back to a daily view, I can see based on, her hours across this view, I can change what I'm looking at. I can actually look at the whole year if I wanted to in some screens here, based on what my settings are, what I want to make them. And where it gets pretty busy, we saw it was pretty busy for Carrie. So maybe this piece of work here, where she's got 4 hours, and what would happen if I gave that to Andrea? I know she's got the capability, has she got the availability, and what's the impact there? So it's actually going to put her over as well. But I can do that when I'm happy. I do a bit of what if analysis, move that around, maybe put that back onto my placeholder role, and then have a look at who needs to work on that next. So being able to work through things. So as far as question here, what kind of records is schedule pulling that availability from? So it is pulling that availability from the action allocation. So what you're allocating in your project. You can also, I don't think I have it set up at the moment. So you can actually have, if you've got integration, Salesforce integration to Outlook or Google Calendar, and you want to respect that and bring that, you can show those events and tasks in your mission control scheduler, so you can see what people have got in there. And certainly, I'm looking at the timeline. I can look at things by the month as well to see what people are working on. Standalone timesheet. So I've got an example here where I've got my own timesheet, nice and simple. I've got 8 hours allocated each day, nothing for Friday. It's probably because I'm actually on training on Friday. So I'm going to add that to my timesheet. I've actually got 8 hours coming up, and I might just save that. I've got a lot of columns here that I can have switched on or off. So I mean, I could actually work standalone, go to chatter, checklist, item manager, raise issues, complete the item. When I double click when I'm logging time, so let's log an hour here just to show the example. Is that pop-up screen we saw before. So if I want to add any notes or any other detail, log it to checklist items underneath, you can do that as well. If you've got that integration into Calendar, I've got Google Calendar integration, you could actually see what's in your calendar and then obviously share that into Scheduler and see where we are. Wednesday. I think we're going back in time the other way. This is a couple of months ago I showed where I had some data. So you might just have things in here that you want to log time against. You can do it at this level and then choose a project. Also approvals. So we've got built-in approvals and mission control. I've got one here for Carrie where not only am I the project manager, I'm her role manager as well. So her reporting line manager. So I can approve, reject, go into detail, have a look at what she's working on, do it from there. You can add obviously any Salesforce capability you want on top of that, notifications, other approvals. That's certainly part of the capability. Let's deep dive into a project. So here's the Labs Roadshow we saw earlier. Again, I'm looking straight here at the overview. Taking you back to insights again, we can see the budget, what we're charging the client, what's our cost performance, schedule performance, the billable dollars, hours, P&L, the invoicing. This is a retainer-based project, so we've actually invoiced 87 grand, and we're still waiting for 54 of that to be paid. So maybe as the project manager, I'm not going to go much further. For our construction clients, last year we brought in budget items. So maybe you really need to track things at a detailed level. So when you're bringing in materials, expenses, and costs to the project, you want to put them, be able to track them very tightly across, what's scheduled, completed, forecast, your P&L, gross margins and variances. A lot of detail there. Have a look online, user guide and a knowledge base for more detail on that. I haven't touched on the action pad. We looked at the Kanban view. The action pad is exactly the same data. Probably something I should have emphasized. Mission Control is one of the few PSA solutions where you don't have to choose what view when you create the project. So you could be looking at the work breakdown structure we did, the action pad view, the Kanban view, the Gantt chart, depending on what you want to give access to your people. And the action pad, it gives me the ability to sort this by priority, filter it obviously if I want to, and do all the work on that as I was. So if I have a look at what's coming up here, and I have a look at the detail, I can obviously have a look here. If I've got any notes, I want to chatter people, I can chatter, communicate against the project. Again, the trackpad at the right, just remind you at any time, I can add actions, create new actions on my project. I can do that from the bottom as well. Time logs, so tracking your time logs, getting a summary of what's happening, how's that drawing in, the ideal hours, how it should be drawing down. Obviously being a demo, we haven't done a lot here. Expenses, you just send an expense budget, you want to be able to track it, much as you log time, you can log expenses with approvals. And then risks and issues, maybe risks, you want to track what risks are coming up to a project and what happens with a risk. We've got a risk here for approvals that's increasing. And depending on the scores we're giving it, we'll give it a risk score. So things that we should actually be focusing on. If I look at my increasing risk and have a look at the detail, what am I doing to mitigate that? I'm going to transfer this and get someone else to do the approval if the right approver is not available. And then maybe what I can do if it gets realized is actually promote that risk to an issue. And maybe I keep my risks as internal, or I could share them with the client and go through issues very much in a similar way. So being able to communicate that with the client. We touched on billing, the whiteboard. I did mention this earlier. If you're under the whiteboard, the Kanban view under the project, you'll have access to look at it by milestone. So you could actually have a look, if you need to add more actions, you can do that straight out of the box here. And you can drag and drop. Obviously, if you're doing a sprint type approach, so we're not going to finish with the build page content that needs to go in that sprint, we can just drag that across. Gantt chart, we saw revenue recognition for those who have an accounting bent. You can see, obviously, when are we going to realize the revenue from our project? When can we take it out of, when can we actually see that as profit, as margin? And when is that going to happen? So being able to track that. The scheduler, so the scheduler under the project, maybe I want to have a look and have a filter in here in scheduler and have a look who's available to help on the project. So I could actually filter, show me people who've got a certain capability and work through that and check on who's got availability, who's busy. Not a lot of my demo org. Retrospectives, we brought that in last year. So looking back on milestones on project completion, what's worked well. When we do this type of project in future, let's go and check that we do all these things well, that we're doing well, and things we need to improve, we improve on. So giving that ability to track through things. And what's really crucial, we get asked this a lot, and the simple answer is, can you send a status report out to the client? Yes, it's an out-of-the-box status report as a PDF. You choose what gets to go on it. Obviously, have your or your client's logo, a hero image, your contact, who that's going to. Maybe you just send them the project summary. Perhaps you send them the project detail, maybe only the milestones, or what you want them to see, so they get a detail of what's actually happening. Maybe a snapshot of the Gantt chart, what's happening there, and any issues, risks, and other things, change requests, anything you need to share with them. Also, last year we released the online version of that. So the customer online read-only page, quite a mouthful. And if I just hit refresh, it'll take about 5 seconds, time enough for me to have a sip of water. Maybe 2 sips of water at this pace. And if I then jump into my Gantt chart, that should give me the view. Demo gods are not being kind today. There we go. And just refreshing. And it's going to take about 30 seconds today. So very similar to the view we saw, but a read-only version. So the client could actually see, if you wanted to share this with them, what's actually happening, as well as things such as, Kanban time logs. Quite often clients want to see the time you're actually doing, but they can see all this information as well. That's pretty much all I have time to show in the product. Please, any questions? I'm happy to deep dive into any other components while I'm waiting for that. So certainly go to App Exchange. The new look App Exchange is great. Search on Mission Control or PSA or Project Management. You'll find us there on the first page, certainly on the search. It takes you through the features available in Mission Control. There's a lot. There's probably some things we haven't touched on today. There's a short teaser demo video, about 4 or 5 minutes, just taking you through capability, and a real live test drive account. So you can actually log in with a Trailblazer account or as a guest, and you can go into a real live test drive account. Question came up. Is there a function to query employee skill sets before scheduling to a project and then adding those to requirements when scoping the work? Short answer would be yes. And when I was actually before scheduling to a project, so in the project, I think I had it open here. So in the project, what we did do is we actually had a look at the skill sets in the resource assignment wizard. So we did a search here. And I needed to find someone by certain skill sets. So say, configuration, that's one example. I don't have it active in this demo org. So one of the brand new features, beta releases resource forecasting, is you will be able to do that from the opportunity. So if I go back to my opportunity, I've got a managed forecast. I just don't have it set up at the moment for this org. I'm setting that up in a brand new org. And in the managed forecast, you could actually search at the opportunity stage to find the right resource with the right capability and then tag them to the project. So short answer was yes. Adding requirements, obviously, because it's Salesforce, anything you want to carry through from the opportunity, you can. So obviously in the opportunity, we've got the account, the project, all those pieces of information, it'll appear on a related list and fields you can access, whether it's directly accessible or via a lookup field. Back to App Exchange. So look, if you want to get it now, if you log in to App Exchange under your Sandbox account, click on Get It Now, scroll down to the bottom of the screen here, and you will find the quick start guide. Obviously access to the user guide. There's that brand's article on from Chris Litton. The quick start guide just takes you through some of the steps. It takes about 30 minutes, including the 5 or 10 minutes while you're waiting for App Exchange to load into your org to actually get started with mission control. So everything I've shown you today is out of the box capability. Yes, I've changed some of the page layouts. I added one process builder, but otherwise it's out of the box. So you choose what your end users get to see and do through permission sets, field level management, Salesforce. Aprika.com. So the company is Aprika Business Solutions. Mission Control is our core product. We're a 100% product company now. We stopped being a systems integrator about 5-6 years ago now. And there's about 20 training videos. So recorded videos on different aspects of mission control. The user guide's available to download, read it online, download as a PDF. Visit the knowledge base where you can ask any sort of questions and get support. You can raise the support ticket while you're on trial. You don't have to be a paid customer. And if I go to my magic window down here and switch myself online, if you see my smiling mug down here or another picture as opposed to what was there before, so if I just switch that off again, if you see a picture of a person, yes, there's a real person behind that. If we're not online, simply ask a question, we'll get notified, and we'll certainly get back to you as soon as we can. We pride ourselves on being extremely responsive, and I know some of the customers online probably find I'm a bit too responsive, but that's all good. Any other questions before I close out final remarks? Please feel free to add any. So what I forgot to mention is when you do the Get It Now, it comes with a free trial. So if you put it into production or sandbox, it comes with a free trial. There's no financial commitment required. We live by the adage of making things as simple as possible. So this is why our online information is very accessible, support guides, knowledge base, all that sort of information. We're very responsive, and we do pride ourselves on that. I one of those horrible people. I have to have all my emails responded to each day, and try and do it reasonably quickly. I'm also available on Slack if you're a partner or a customer or a Salesforce employee. And you can details here if you want to actually reach out to get a live demo, or you can contact me directly. There's my details. There's my email, trevor.doornbos@aprika.com. That is RNBOS, not M for mother, but Romeo, November, Bravo, Oscar, Sierra, as I said about 3 times on calls this morning. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that's been useful. There's a lot more to mission control, and I've got to say there's probably 2 aspects to look at with mission control as a PSA solution. There's a lot to it if you need to use it. If you don't need to use all the functionality, switch off what you don't need, and you can roll up to that when you're ready to. So certainly a crawl, walk, run approach of use what you need. Some of our clients start very, very simply with mission control, then add the capability they need. Some don't use billing when they start. Some don't even use time tracking. They just want to use the resourcing side because it's very, very strong. Thank you very much again. We will send out a recording of this. If you weren't able to join the session, thank you in absentia, and thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you.